you're lucky enough to own some fabulous mature trees, or maybe even an area of woodland, well then when storms come to visit, like Ophelia did recently, and no doubt there'll be more as the winter progresses, well then you're at risk of this devastation. The trees will come down at Ophelia or whatever storm's behest. It's not necessarily the case though, because with a bit of careful management, and if you get some good professional arborists in to maintain your trees in terms of good crown reduction and professional pruning, well then the risk maybe is not completely negated, but the risks are certainly reduced, so that when the storms come, you see, trees are magic. They're very aerodynamically designed to allow wind, to allow storms go through them. But as the years go by, trees can get congested. There can be dead wood, there can be marauders like ivy through the crown. So with some careful management, that aerodynamic design, if you like, of the trees can be maintained, and they're much less susceptible to storm damage. Now the trees that I'm looking at in particular here are all oak trees, and they're very old oak trees. They're well over 100 years of age, and I feel a bit of an attachment towards them because my father used to play around here as a child, something I didn't know until this morning, but a very good friend of my dad's lived in a house not far from here, so they would have played here as children. Now it's not quite 100 years ago, but not that far off it either. These trees would have been here then. Think about that. It's not quite 100 years ago, but they would only have been mere saplings then. We fast forward now to 2017 and we look at them. So it's just so important that we maintain these trees if we can. There's nothing to say they won't be here for another 100 years. Maybe if I'm lucky enough to have grandchildren, they'll be standing here talking about me being around here. So we feel attached to nature, and I feel a particular affinity to these particular oak trees that are here. And of course, apart from all that, they are so important in terms of local biodiversity. They sustain so many different species of wildlife. They're massive carbon mops too, of course, soaking up pollution in the atmosphere. They're just such important things to have. So if we have them, and if we can, we need to maintain them. And I'm talking about getting professional tree surgeons in, removing diseased wood, removing dead branches, keeping a good open crown. You see, trees are perfectly aerodynamic in design, but sometimes they need our help to maintain that good design. I don't know if you can make out here, but just behind these trees you'll see some power lines. About 2 years ago, these trees were encroaching upon those power lines. Now, if they hadn't been cut back and if the crown hadn't been reduced, I guarantee you that when Ophelia did come to visit, the trees would have come crashing down, the houses in the area would have been without power for God knows how long, days, weeks, whatever. So I think the proof of the pudding, if you like, is in the eating. You can see here Ophelia did come to visit recently. Devastation down there on trees that weren't being maintained. Here, no damage at all. So your trees will thank you and your garden will thank you if you put a bit of time and effort into careful tree management. If not, be prepared to get the tree surgeons in to clean up afterwards. Of course, this maintenance comes at a cost, but what of the cost of not doing it? You will spend much more money cleaning up after the storm than what you might have spent maintaining the trees in the first place. And left to her own devices, nature will be a far more harsh pruner than any tree surgeon, ripping branches down and paying no heed to the damage she causes beneath as they fall on existing shrubs and landscaped gardens that may have cost a fortune. And that's not to mention any damage which may be caused to property. So in the long run, the cost of not doing this vital maintenance work could be far more than actually doing it.